Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Tuesday. I'm Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Every time I think about Tuesday, I go, oh yeah. What do you do? That's right. It's Tuesday. It never gets old. It's always new.
Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. I'm J.E. Skeets here in the Classic Factory, and alongside me, as always, Tass Mellis.
I swear that person has fixed my car down here. But on the Tuesday that he fixed my car, he said it's Tuesday. It's different. Tuesday. Every Tuesday's different.
Next to him, it's the bearded one, Matapsha Hot Boy, Trey Kirby.
Hey,
yo. And last but not least, making the magic happen, super producer JD.
Hello.
There he is. Here we are. Shout out to the stream team joining us live right now on YouTube. Hit the like button, subscribe. Podcast listeners, 5 stars, ratings, and reviews. We got a fun one here because we will get into the all-rookie teams. Trey Kirby's got Tweet of the Night. But we are doing our conference finals previews here for our 2 series that get underway tonight in the Eastern Conference. Let's begin there. The Pacers qualified for their first East Finals since 2014. They began the playoffs as the number 6 seed. They beat Milwaukee with no Giannis. They beat the banged-up Knicks, and now they face the conference's top contender here in the Celtics, who enter their 6th East Finals appearance in the past 8 seasons. If you care, the Celtics won the season series with Indiana 3-2. They played 5 times thanks to that in-season tournament. Only the last game saw Pascal Siakam in a Pacers jersey. So you know what? Check it out. Throw it out. None of it matters.
Poor Pascal. He played the Celtics a lot of times, including the Raptors.
That's right.
They lost a lot.
He's got some experience against them. So, yeah, the number 1 seeded Celtics versus the number 6 seeded Pacers. Let's break it down. We'll get to our predictions. But what's one thing you're watching for in this series, Tess?
Pace. I know. We always talk about the pace with the Pacers. That is their name, though. We got to talk about it. They are the fastest team in the playoffs. The Celtics are the slowest team in the playoffs. Will the Celtics make shots enough to slow the Pacers down a little bit? Because we know the Pacers like to speed it up. They are versatile. They are randomized. They do everything in their offense. They're going to go through absolutely everyone. But, the Celtics are the best defense that the Pacers have played so far in the postseason. They've got that length. And listen, sometimes they calm down. We may see a shootout, a Celtics-Pacers let's just shoot it out and have a great fun game for the rest of us. And also, the Pacers have not faced as good as an offense as the Celtics team has been. They have been stacked. I know you excluded Giannis from their opponents this playoffs, and you said, hey, the Knicks are banged up. This is all true. The Celtics are just healthy and ready to go. And
Kristaps Porzingis is not going to play the first 2 games.
This is 100%
Probably
true.
still have enough firepower to get through them. But
they have many firepowers. And I do want to see Tyrese Halliburton and who he's going to guard on most likely a Drew Holiday matchup, because you can't hide him anywhere.
Right.
The Celtics are just so versatile. They do have all these weapons, whether Kristaps Porzingis is playing or not. So just the fun pace of it all.
Love a pace. Love the pace. Love that the Pacers made it this far, because you get to see the in-season tournament mentioned in every single preview.
Right.
You know, these are the 2 healthiest teams in the Eastern Conference. No surprise they actually made it this far. And I think you're onto something. I think Halliburton should absolutely guard Drew Holiday, because I think that could maybe trick the Celtics into going to Drew Holiday. If you're the Pacers, you're living with a bunch of Drew Holiday post-ups on Tyrese Halliburton. That takes the Celtics out of their drive and kick game. We know they like to get 3-pointers up. That's a huge thing for them. So the Pacers have been pretty good in this playoffs and during the season. Taking away 3-pointers, you can score inside on them, though. But we know the Celtics want to get 3-pointers up. That's how they have become the second best offense in the playoffs. They're first in 3-point rate. I wonder how the Pacers are able to keep pace with them from the 3-point line. Yeah. A lot of that comes down to Tyrese Halliburton, I do believe, because he's going to need to score in this series. He's the best offensive player on the perimeter for the Pacers, but the Celtics have a lot of guys they can throw at him. It's like Drew Holiday and Derek White, you can take turns. We could go with Jason Tatum if we're feeling crazy and need some size on him. Jaylen Brown, I think, will be kind of like the third option there as a kind of in-between size and speed there. It'll be interesting to see how Halliburton attacks those guys. They're going to try and send them left. They're going to do everything they can to make anybody else beat them besides Halliburton. So getting three-point attempts, getting into the lane, getting the drive and kick game going, that's going to be huge for Halliburton, but they need him to score efficiently as well.
Yeah, he needs to have the series of his life for this to be competitive or to even pull off the upset. Halliburton's production dipped in the 4 games he played against Boston. It makes sense. They're playing a lot of defensive-minded guys, all defensive candidates in Drew and Derek White. Just 16 points per game. I'm even rounding up there a little bit. 41% shooting for Halliburton. But he's got to be aggressive. Yeah, you're going to be happy if the three's falling for him, but he needs to touch paint and probably get that floater going. They're going to do drop coverage. If it's if Porzingis comes back in the series, that's how they've played him before. There's going to be room there in the middle if you can get by those elite defensive guys on the wings. Got to hit that little floater, I think. He's got to shoot it with some confidence and probably shoot it often because they don't need to. They're not going to be throwing doubles at him. They're happy with guys playing one-on-one because they have so many elite defenders. But yeah, can they just stop him is the other point. You said it here. Boston is incredible at scoring the ball. They scored 126 points per 100 possessions against Indiana this season. That was a little inflated because of that 155-point game I guess they had early in the year, but still some other high-octane games. So just can they slow them down? Because we even saw the Pacers against the Knicks there in some of those games. It was high-scoring affairs. They weren't stopping them for a majority of it, and Boston's even better offensively. So can they get enough stops?
Yeah, these are the top 2 offenses in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Celtics can do it. As Trey brought up, the time that the Celtics find a problem with their offense is when they're trying to do one particular thing, and that's could be, in this case, Drew Holiday trying to give it to Tyrese Halliburton. Because they excel, like the Pacers do, when they give it to everybody.
Yeah.
When they make it all happen. When they move it, when all 5 guys are getting into it. So it's really if the Celtics just kind of go back to their old ways and have a bad stretch. But they have been resting and ready for this series. They are absolutely fresh. They just give game 2s away. That's what they do. They gave game 2 away in each of their first 2 series. So It's highly likely the Celtics will win game 1. It's that game 2 mystery that if the Pacers can go into Boston and steal one.
I wonder if the Celtics will play drop, especially with Porzingis out. Al Horford's a better switch defender than Porzingis is, and I think he's a little bit more comfortable there. You also saw in that Game 5 against the Cavaliers, the Celtics were saying, you're not taking three-pointers. Live in the lane if you want to. That's how Evan Mobley had a huge game. Took 24 shots in that one. So I think that's probably what the Celtics will do. They're going to switch everything. Makes it even tougher for the Pacers to get three-pointers up.
Yeah, and on the other side, does Al let a few rip from three-point line? Because Miles Turner will want to be in the lane to help out on defense. And these numbers sometimes don't mean anything, but he did shoot 6 of 11 from 3 against the the Indiana Pacers, from 3. So they will try and get Miles as far away from the rim as possible because he is their deterrent.
Do you think you're not concerned, you said, really at all that Porzingis is not going to start this series? In all likelihoods, maybe misses game 1 and 2, and then we move forward there, and maybe we see him in Indiana. But Al Horford starts, Luke Cornett, backup minutes. Do we see Tillman? Do we see even O'Shea Brissett? Does he get a chance here in a more athletic type of series, and you're not going to be punished with the size of Indiana probably? What do you think?
I don't think so.
No.
To be quite honest, I think they want Kristaps Porzingis back in this series to get him ready for the NBA Finals potentially.
Right.
And game 3 would give him 25 days off for the injury. Kelly Dwyer loves a good calendar, and I got that date from him. 25 days off to help the bum calf get ready for the NBA Finals. I don't think it's a problem. Does anybody else really think it's a problem that Al Horford, who has been primed for these playoff minutes because he didn't play a ton. He played in the regular season, obviously, but they didn't have to go to him a lot. Plus, they are resting. And the fact that they had 2 shorter series.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a problem. I don't really think Tillman or Brissett is going to factor into this series at all. I think Tillman's played like 25 minutes. Brissett hasn't touched the floor yet in the playoffs, but the Pacers did a pretty good job against the Knicks on the offensive glass, so you're going to want a big out there at the very least, though I imagine the Celtics, if the Pacers are really, really running, they could try 5 out, play Tatum at the 5 if they really wanted to, and then who knows who comes in as the guard, probably Pritchard or something like that. But I don't think that Porzingis is necessary for the Celtics to win this series.
Right, and Mazzulla has been pretty hesitant to want to go Tatum as sort of a small ball center five. He likes the size there, so that's why we see Luke and stuff like that, and obviously Al Horford, who has played great as the series went on against the Cavs. He was not hitting anything to start that series, but then sort of caught fire and, sort of found his rhythm, so he could be instrumental here. Is there anything else to watch for in this one? You want to pivot to straight up X factors? We could do both teams if you want.
Yeah, let's do the 5. Let's pivot.
What do you got for an X factor?
The two pests, T.J. McConnell versus Peyton Pritchard. I think that will be interesting because T.J. McConnell was monstrous last series. He was so key against the New York Knicks. And according to the stats, he was 18 of 33 from the floor against these Boston Celtics. But Peyton Pritchard will have fun against him. So that matchup is going to be important. I think if there's anything that the Pacers do benefit from, it is their depth. And at times, T.J. McConnell was really huge. I mean, he created turnovers in the backcourt in both of these series. So that's really important. And Peyton Pritchard, I think, will be up for the challenge. When he looks into the mirror and he sees T.J. McConnell, I know they play a little differently, but they're going to be in that same role. So just that matchup is interesting. Pritchard really has to be up in T.J. McConnell because T.J. McConnell can cause a big problem. So that matchup will be fun for me, and it is key, I think, for Indiana to win this series.
Indiana's bench was phenomenal against the Knicks, really throughout the postseason. You said McConnell. I mean, he's been one of the biggest stories from the postseason. 11 points per game in the playoffs. He had 42 assists to just 10 turnovers in that Knicks series. Obi Toppin's averaged 11 points per game in the playoffs. He hit a decent number of threes against the Knicks, 7 of 16, so not a huge volume, but knocked him down. Ben Shepherd been rebounding really well for a shooting guard when his opportunity. He's shooting 47% from deep in the playoffs. And then Isaiah Jackson, who's played the less of those guys, the fewest amount of minutes, but a hustle guy, maybe gives you 10 minutes per game. Maybe we see him a little bit more, but block shots. He's been a positive in almost all his games against the Knicks. So, the X factor for the Pacers to make this interesting. Halliburton's got to be a star, but these guys got to continue to play at this elite level because it might be one tiny advantage when you do the old columns between the two teams. But can they keep it up against a much better Celtics team?
That was my X factor as well. Who's going to be the best white guy in this series? McConnell or Pritchard? That's kind of what it comes down to because the Pacers, their bench was a major advantage against the Knicks. Of course, the Knicks bench didn't get a whole lot of run there and, was depleted by the end. But I still think that the Pacers can probably run against this Boston Celtics bench, though, there'll be blended lineups, that kind of stuff. So a little further down on the X Factor list, I think is going to be Drew Holiday's offense because it would be smart of the Pacers to make him beat you because there are good games from Drew Holiday. We've seen a lot of good games. We've also seen a lot of games where he's forcing it, a lot of turnovers, can't really get into his offense efficiently. I think he's going to be getting a large part of the Halliburton assignment defensively, so he's probably putting a lot of effort there. Mm-hmm. If the Pacers can trick the Celtics into a one-on-one game, that definitely favors them because a missed shot, they're going the other way. That's how the Pacers want to play.
Speaking of white guys who can help, Sam Hauser can help the Boston Celtics because Indiana hasn't really faced a guy like this off the bench in their two series here against the Knicks and Milwaukee. Sam Hauser would be the best shooter out of all, between both those teams coming off this bench. And he can let it rip. So that is something they have to guard. He can literally fill it. So there is that. You're right about the advantage for the Indiana Pacers has to be their bench. It really has to be. So they have to watch Sam Hauser for those open threes.
Are you excited to watch Nesmith do his best to slow down a Tatum? I assume that will be majority of his assignment, maybe some Jaylen Brown. But, Tatum and Brown had great numbers against the Pacers in the regular season in terms of scoring the ball. And, we barely even talked about them here. It's just like we sort of just put them in pen, it feels like, for their numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
The only bad thing is Tatum can't hit a three to save his life right now. If you're a Pacers fan, you're hoping that continues. But speak to that matchup there. And Nesmith, the revenge series here against a team that sort of cut him and let him go and all that.
I think Aaron Nesmith is the Patrick Beverley of the wing. He's tricking y'all. He just tries really, really hard when he's guarding on the ball. He gets lost on backdoor cuts. He's not really an offensive player unless he's hitting threes, which is up and down for him. So I think he needs to be effective offensively for the Pacers and then hopefully slow down one of either Tatum or Brown, which is a tough spot for him because guess what? There's another guy who could go off. We barely even get to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown until we're at the end of the X Factor series. These guys are averaging basically 30 a game throughout the playoffs. So they could use a second Nesmith. honestly.
Yeah, there's something.
Siakam, I guess, has got to be a good defender as well.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned him yet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, they're obviously, they have guys, they have size at least in theory on paper to slow them down, but like Jaylen Brown's completely overlooked throughout the entire postseason. We barely talked about the Celtics, if we're being honest, because they've taken care of business outside of these weird games they have in Game 2, and they're suddenly like, oh my God, we got a 1-1 series, and then they dominate from there on out. I'm interested to watch, and this is by way of Schumann, the Celtics have played basically no clutch time in this postseason. I think it's 79 seconds where the score was within 5 points in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. So 9 of their 10 games, including both of their losses, they're double digits. Like, they're not close games. Now, I'm not like worrisome or worried that if they get in that, like, oh, they'll just panic and don't know what to do. I mean, you have great star players, but they just haven't had to play any. The Pacers have played, I think, 4 clutch games already, and I think they split those. I hope we get close games. I just don't know if we will continue with the Boston Celtics here in just these blowout varieties.
I think one thing we do overlook when we look at the Pacers versus the Celtics in the regular season, or just the Pacers overall, is that their defense has gotten better as the season has gone along and in this postseason. And so, yeah, Tatum and Brown were good against them, but they do have 4 really good defenders besides Halliburton. The other 4 guys that they play, and Nesmith and Nembhard and Turner and Siakam, are good defenders to start, and then there's more off the bench.
Yeah,
and so
they were better when they added Siakam, for sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, they changed.
A better defensive team.
Yeah, and they put Nesmith and Nembhard into the starting lineup to beat pests. So there's that. But the Celtics are just damn talented, and they fire away from 3. They've averaged 38 threes per game here in the first 2 rounds, and you just think that they are more talented offensively than the Indiana Pacers, which is odd to say because the Pacers are so damn good offensively. But then the Celtics do have the good defense as well. So, yeah, it's a very well-rounded team. There's no doubt.
Do you think, I mean, we talked about the Pacers obviously getting a little injury luck here against the teams they played, and there's no doubt with the Giannis and then obviously the Knicks. But do you think the Pacers are better than the 2021 Hawks, comparable, much worse? Like these teams that make sort of surprise runs to the conference finals, where do you like have this Pacers team and sort of the hierarchy there?
Equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I think the Knicks would have beat them if they're healthy, and I think the Bucks would have beat them if they're healthy.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of falls along the same lines as the Hawks, where it's like Ben Simmons had a meltdown, Joel Embiid couldn't hang on to the ball in games 6 and 7. They went to the conference finals. But that's kind of how it goes in the playoffs a lot. The healthiest teams get there. The Celtics haven't played a healthy team yet either.
Yeah, that's a good point. Prediction time. Where are you going? How many games?
There's going to be some weird stuff in this because the Pacers haven't lost a home game in months. It's been a long time, March 18th. But the Celtics haven't lost a game on the road this postseason, so something is going to change. But the Celtics have lost both game 2s, as I said earlier. I do think the Celtics will get on a roll just because they have had a lot of rest to win game 1, and the game 2 is a question in this one. I think they'll just feel better, and this is the biggest stage for the Pacers. And
since the IST,
what a stage that was in Las Vegas. Well, I wish I was there to see that stage. I have the Celtics in 5. I do think that they'll take care of home in the first 2 games for the first time this postseason. So I think that's a big factor in this series.
So you see Indiana winning one of their home games there.
Yeah, for sure. I hope so. Okay. I hope so.
Celtics in 5 seems like a very common pick here. Yes. Maybe you go sweep. Maybe you think it's longer. What's Trey Kirby think?
I think the Pacers are going to win game 1.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That'd be
this
fun.
is the best, most whole team that Boston has faced yet in the playoffs. That's some major change in style from the way they've been playing. They played against Cleveland. They played against Miami, teams that wanted to generally slow it down, though Cleveland started chucking at the end of the series when Donovan Mitchell was out. They also haven't played for a week.
Yep.
The Celtics have played 10 games in 37 days.
Jeez.
It's unbelievable. Like, you have to remember, the Celtics are in the playoffs. The team that was the best record for the entire season. Right. Yeah, they're still going. So I think I will go for the Celtics in 6.
Okay.
It'll be 2-2 after 4 games, just because the 3-point variance. There will be a game when the Pacers outshoot the Celtics. It happens every series.
Right. I'll go with Tass. I'm going Celtics in 5. I don't think, though I'd love it for the narrative of the series if Indiana pulls off this game 1 victory tonight, but just too much talent. There's obviously the experience factor. We just said this team has been to so many conference finals. They also and again, like, this is set up so perfectly for the Celtics. It could not be set up better for them to obviously go to the championship and to maybe win the whole thing. Now that Denver, the only team that sort of had their number during the regular season, is completely removed as well. So I will go Celtics in 5. There will be a game, of course, where Indiana probably at home gets help from their bench, and maybe Halliburton has a star performance, and that'll be enough. But I'm going with the common pick here. It feels like that's the most common pick I've seen. Celtics in 5. We have the poll going up there on YouTube.
48% say Celtics in 4 or 5.
Okay.
34% say Celtics in 6 or 7.
Okay.
16% say Pacers in 6 or 7, and 0% going for Pacers in 4 or 5.
Okay.
Which I think is fair.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Well, let's move over to the Western Conference Final. Game 1. It's going to mark just the second postseason series between the Wolves and Mavericks. The last playoff matchup between these two came in the opening round of the 2002 playoffs, when we saw a 57-win Dallas squad defeat Mini 3-0 before they lost in the next round. But more recently, Minnesota finished 3-1 against Dallas during the regular season. Luka missed 2 of those games. Kyrie sat out 3, and all of them occurred before Dallas brought in Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington at the trade deadline. I want you to throw those games out, okay? They mean nothing. So number 3 Wolves versus the number 5 Mavs. Very excited here matchup.
Yes.
You got your Andrew Wiggins Minnesota Timberwolves jersey on. My
It's
God.
time. It's time.
Wow.
To pull out of Minnesota. I just love the blue more so than anything.
very nice.
You know, there's an Andrew Wiggins autograph on the back of this. I totally had forgotten about that, but it's autographed the number 2. They
very
also
nice.
Sent a shoe, right?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, the old Wiggins shoe.
This
just
was,
one.
This was
shoe,
sent to the
not
starters back in
shoes.
the day? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I took it.
Okay, so what are you watching for in Wolves Mavs?
Also the first time probably that Dallas is hosting both a conference finals and a conference final in hockey. The conference final, don't call me finals. The
Yeah,
Dallas
that's right.
Stars hosting as well.
What do we got?
Exciting
Stars
stuff.
Oilers?
Stars
I think,
Oilers. Oilers took care of business against Van City yesterday.
Yeah, Ryan Nugent Hopkins scoring. He was raised in Barnaby, BC, only 8 miles from the
Wow.
arena. He was so excited to be playing a Game 7 there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What a Nugent of information there. What a name. Nugent Hopkins.
Hey, man, no basketball on last night. You can watch whatever you want. It was the sympathizer and Game 7 of Oilers Canucks for me.
How is the sympathizer?
It's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
So far, we're 3 episodes in, and Robert Downey Jr. is playing 4 roles.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like Nutty Professor mode.
Okay, I'll check it out.
That was the TNT show for a sec. The sympathizer. Anthony Edwards, he hooked me in when he said post the series against the Nuggets. He said, I'm guarding Kyrie Irving next series.
That's right.
He got me.
Tipped his hand.
Yeah, and Kyrie, as good as he was defensively against Jalen Williams against OKC in round 2, he didn't have to do that much offensively. They weren't running plays for him. Kyrie Irving, the talented Kyrie Irving, averaged only 15.7 points per game in round 2. Very weird stuff. So, you know, he will have, I think, a little bit of ease on the other end. Defense will probably have to guard some Conley and some McDaniels, and maybe he'll have to guard Edwards because that's where Dallas suffers a little bit. I mean, who's going to guard Anthony Edwards? Probably Luka. But anyway, just the fact that Anthony Edwards said, I'm guarding Kyrie is going to be interesting to me. And if Kyrie can turn it up a little bit, because he is going to be needed very much to be a better offensive player if they're going to be able to beat the Timberwolves.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun matchup. We have the league's highest scoring duo against one of the best pairs of perimeter defenders in McDaniels and Edwards. Everybody's bringing up that clip from a regular season game. I know they don't mean anything, but that one where they did a good job, McDaniels and Edwards did, of sort of shutting down Kyrie and Luka at the end of there, and they're like, who's shooting it, who's shooting it, who's shooting it, and they were doing a good job on them. So that is going to be a fun watch. What are you watching for in this?
Best player wins this series.
Okay.
Who's the best player? That's the question for me. Is it going to be Ant Edwards or is it going to be Luka Doncic? Luka, more established. He's been to a conference finals, all the All-NBAs in the world, basically since his rookie season. Ant Edwards, though, feels like he's got a lot of momentum behind him and not great matchups, I don't think, for him on the Dallas side. Like Derek Jones Jr., he's probably getting the majority of that assignment on Edwards, I would imagine, but Kyrie will guard him a little bit, I think. Maybe Dante Exum gets a little turn. I think Josh Green will guard as well. So the Mavs are going to have to be really schemy with things, which we saw quite a bit in their Thunder series. They were at boxes and elbows on Shea the entire time. They would double him. They would double Jalen Williams. They're going to pack the paint. So the three-point shooters from Minnesota are going to have to hit. For Luka, it all comes down to controlling his emotions. It really, really does, because Jaden McDaniels is a guy who likes to get under your skin. He's going to have to be up on Luka, because I don't think he has the bulk that like a Lou Dort does to be able to be physical with him. I'm also a little worried about, will he be poised enough? Because that's a guy who can go just a little bit over the edge, I think, as well. But it's going to have to be an efficient scoring series from Luka Doncic, which we haven't really seen yet in this playoffs. He's been getting his numbers. Like, I don't even think we mentioned the guy was like a 30-point triple-double in their last game to close out the Thunder. But he still hasn't shot the ball really well. Hasn't shot it very well from three. So I'm interested to see if Luka keeps the crown between these two guys, or if Ant supersedes him. And I really, really hope we get these two talking trash to each other, because these are like two of the biggest trash talkers in the game, and they'll do it nonstop.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Love all that stuff. I'm also watching the offensive glass. These are the two best offensive rebounding teams left in the playoffs, both the Wolves and the Mavericks. The Mavericks, they got at least 14 offensive rebounds in 4 games so far in the playoffs, but Minnesota, man, they got the size. Like, these guys are jumbo. We got Rudy, Cat, Naz Reid. They're going to try their best to limit those second chance opportunities. So that's something to watch. Like, some of these teams, both of these teams, I should say, like, they're a little sloppy with the ball at times. And so, you know, they both have to be really good on the offensive glass when you're talking about possessions. So who can do a better job at getting those second chance opportunities, which more times than not, you know, you get the rebound, they lead out to or they get kicked out to a 3-point shooter who usually knocks it down in rhythm. So fun stuff. X Factor, either team. Where are you going?
This is a deep one. This is a deep cut, but I think just like what the Minnesota Timberwolves did against the Denver Nuggets, where Rudy Gobert was basically sort of along the baseline at times guarding Aaron Gordon, he was allowed to stay near the rim, and that helped them a lot. I think the Mavs really, really, really need Maxi Kleber back.
That'd be good.
That'd be huge.
Just to get Rudy Gobert the heck away from the rim as much as possible. He would play the 5, and there would be no choice, but Rudy Gobert would have to go out to take him outside. Because
we've seen that before.
Yeah.
2022
yes.
in the matchup between the Mavericks and then Gobert when he was with the Jazz.
Yeah, and Luka was able to abuse Rudy Gobert in that matchup. They'd get the switch, and he would be really good on him. Now, Rudy Gobert has improved even since then. So I don't doubt Rudy Gobert's defense. It will be interesting to see how many bodies, as you went through. Luka had to be guarded by Dort last series. Now it's McDaniels, a different body type, but a long, really good defender. There's going to be multiple guys who are thrown at him, I'm sure, and Luka could hunt a Conley or an Edwards or a Gobert or a Cat because they're just going to try and get the switches. But Gobert is so good against those lobs, like when he will be guarding Gafford or Lively, he's really good at it. So I think they just want to stretch him as much as possible. That is the benefit they could have. Maximilian Kleber is not scheduled to come back until multiple games. I mean, he's been working out.
Yes.
But doesn't look all that good. He is key, I think, to helping this Dallas offense, because Minnesota just has so many freaking guys offensively. It is going to be interesting to see Luka versus Anthony Edwards, but Cat in this series should go off. He's going to be guarded by P.J. Washington, most likely. He should have a good series, and he looked good, obviously, in the last round.
Yeah, Maxi Kleber, right shoulder injury, and he's begun basic basketball activity. He's scheduled to be reevaluated later this week, so we may not even see him at all. But yeah, he was on fire in that series in 2022 because, Gobert couldn't get out to him and he was knocking the threes. But some of these other Mavericks guys have obviously done a great job of hitting three-pointers. The corners are going to be there, and those guys can't miss right now. P.J. Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., a lot of them are just money right now in the corners. They got to continue that. Who's your X factor, TK?
Dallas Biggs is huge, I think, and then Cat factors in as an X factor because the guy's like a super mismatch right now. I also wonder if Kyle Anderson will guard Luka Doncic a little bit. He'll get torn up, I do believe, if that happens, but they can at least try it for a little bit. As for another X factor, I think it's JD and DJ. Jaden McDaniels and Derrick Jones Jr., they're in the exact same spot in this one. They've got a huge defensive responsibility they got to take care of. Jaden's going to be guarding Luka a lot. Derrick Jones Jr. is going to be guarding Ant a lot. And then on offense, that's where anybody is hiding. Jaden McDaniels, you're getting open three-pointers. Derrick Jones Jr., you're getting open three-pointers. Who makes more of them? That might be the entire series right there.
Right. Derrick Jones Jr. obviously turned it on in that last series as it went on. Jaden McDaniels shot 75% over the last 2 games against Denver, averaged 22 points in those Game 6 and Game 7 victories. That's a huge one. That's who I wrote down. Is exactly what I wrote down, TK, was Jaden McDaniels and Derrick Jones Jr. Which one can keep playing at that sort of incredible level offensively? You know they're going to bring it defensively. You're always watching foul trouble, like will Ant, sort of bait Derrick Jones Jr. into 1 or 2, crappy fouls. Same with Luka on Jaden McDaniels. But they're going to be sound there. It's just, can they contribute offensively? Because someone's got to be left open, and it will be those guys.
Yeah.
But they've made a lot of these teams pay, and the reason why they're into the conference finals.
Right. We didn't even mention Nickeil Alexander-Walker as a guy who could potentially be thrown on Luka or thrown on Kyrie just to get under their skin a little bit. Not that they're going to play fourth quarter. He's going to play fourth quarters. But we saw him do a great job against Devin Booker in round 1. Just get under his skin when they played the Phoenix Suns. And in round 2 wasn't needed as much because the Timberwolves were just so good. Because Anthony Edwards is a good defensive player. But there's just a huge list of defensive players on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're very good at that. So I want to see how Dallas, their strength is their backcourt. They're 2 guys. And so they are going to have a lot of guys thrown at them. Many guys thrown at them, I think.
Prediction time. TK, let's start with you because I'm going with whoever you pick. You've been on fire in the Western Conference Finals when it comes to predictions. This is obviously a great matchup. Feels like it's going to go long. Wolves or Mavs? How many games?
It's because I keep picking the Mavs that I keep coming through.
Hey.
The Mavs can win this series if Luka and Kyrie are the best 2 players in the series. Luka has to be the number 1 best player. Kyrie probably slots in at number 3. But if they're 2 of the top 3, I think the Mavs can absolutely win this series. Their defense is pretty good. Obviously the Timberwolves are a legendary defense. People are talking about them as they're the best defense in the past 20 years. But the Mavs are pretty good as well. And I think there are maybe more players on the Timberwolves who could be taken out of this series. Like Kyle Anderson wasn't a factor against the Nuggets eventually. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they were leaving him open against the Nuggets, or the Nuggets were as well. So I worry about having all 3 of Alexander Walker, Slow-Mo, and Rudy Gobert on the court. That's 3 non-shooters for a team in Minnesota that doesn't always score super well, though they have been awesome. It's such a weird story with the Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns goes out at the end of the season. You're like, they're going to be bad. And then they got great on offense, and it has continued into the postseason as well. Very, very impressive. But, man, I don't know. Picking against Anthony Edwards right now.
I know.
I don't love it. Mavs in 7.
Wow. Mavs in 7. He's going to stick with the Dallas train. It's been working for him here. Where are you going?
I hear you. Well, I wore this jersey for the reason that I'm taking the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay. I wasn't smart enough to take Dallas last series, that's for sure. And they were doing a good job of guarding Shea with multiple bodies, even though Shea was awesome. But they were showing him multiple bodies, which I assume they're going to do the same with Anthony Edwards. Here's our guys. What are you going to do, Anthony Edwards? And it is miraculous that they lose Karl Anthony Towns for 6 weeks. And they become better in the postseason. Their offense is actually better, and I think part of it is Anthony Edwards has gotten better at reading defenses, there's 2 bodies close to me, even though they're not doubling me, to keep moving that thing. He's become a quicker decision maker. He's become a postseason decision maker, and I just believe in the Wolves offensively. And I think that the fact that they lost both games to start the series against the Denver Nuggets, not to start the series, but those 2 key games at home in games 3 and games 4 will help them a little bit going forward because that was just abysmal for them. I'm taking them. I do think home court helps them out in this series because I don't see them losing 2 games in a row like that again. It's going to be a fun one. The Dallas Mavericks, what is Jason Kidd's stat that he's 1-11 in his last 12 game ones or something ridiculous.
Right.
What up with that?
Yeah, Luka's even, of course, has a bad game 1 record.
Yeah. Listen, Luka got better as that series went on. Game 6 and game 7, he was good. So I don't know how you bet against Dallas, but this kind of feels like Dallas of 2011 when everybody was picking against Dallas in that postseason. Kind of feels like the Timberwolves are in that position. So I think they get to the finals. I'm taking the Wolves. I'll give a lot of respect to Dallas. 7 games for me.
Okay, you're going Wolves in 7. You got Mavericks in 7. I told you I'm going wherever Trey Kirby's going, so I'm going Mavericks in 7. It's a coin flip. I think this is going to be a 7-game series. It's going to go long. What's really fun is by the end of June, we are going to have either Anthony Edwards winning a championship at 22 years old. We're going to have Luka doing it at, 25, his first. Tatum, 26, or Halliburton at 24. A young star in this league is going to get their first championship. It's going to be one of those teams. And look, some people say if we get Wolves and Celtics, then that means Al Horford or Mike Conley win a ring too. Do you have a dream finals matchup that you just like, as a fan, just want to see the most? Is it Wolves Celtics? Is it Mavericks Celtics? You want the Pacers in there as a feel-good story? Where are you going? Or do you care?
When I dream, I don't usually dream about the finals.
Oh, that's good. It's not
But today, it's kind of hard to dream for the Celtics when they've had the opportunity to go to so many. They've been there already to one. I mean, I don't know. No, I'm dreamless. I gotta be. I gotta be
answer
honest.
the question. Who do you want to see in the finals?
This is a dream. You asked for a dream.
Okay, who do you want to see in the finals?
What?
I want to see Bulls Timberwolves.
Okay, who do you want to realistically see in the finals?
Who are you dreaming for?
I want to see Ant Edwards in the finals.
Right. Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Otherwise, I don't really care.
It's just preference.
Yeah, and if the Timberwolves make it, I'll do Timberwolves of Minnesota again, because the old lyrics have D'Angelo Russell.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a banger for sure. All right, well let's hear from everybody.
Who do you
want
to see?
Oh, I want to see Wolves Celtics. Yeah, I want to see Anthony Edwards in the finals.
Okay.
But look, I told you.
Luka deserves to get there.
I'm sure. I just went through it. You won't be upset with any of those. Well, I mean, people will be upset with the Celtics winning because people just like to shit on the Celtics. But a young star winning their first ring, that's fantastic. So all four of those is awesome. Yeah. But I just want to see Ant because he's the most charismatic guy in the league. Imagine him in a finals. Oh my God.
Yeah. The Tatum thing is he doesn't feel young because this is year 7 and has gone through so many playoffs and been through so many conference finals. He is the oldest of all of them, and they've got so many old guys. So it's a perfect recipe for them.
Yeah. It would also be hilarious for Karl Anthony Towns to win a championship ring before Jimmy Butler. That would just be very funny as well.
Wiggins got one.
That's right. That's right.
He did.
Right there.
He did.
So let's hear from everybody out there. Predictions for both of those conference finals series. They start tonight in the East, and then it's West on Wednesday night, and I guess it's just every other night until they're done.
Every other night till
There's
it's done,
no
baby.
big gaps, which is good. We're getting one basketball game a night. You can really focus, and we'll be breaking it down here on the show the next morning.
Stream team, they think it's a coin flip as well.
Okay.
52% are taking the Timberwolves in 6 or 7 games. 34% are taking the Mavericks in 6 or 7 games. Then you got 9% Timberwolves in 4 or 5. 3% Mavs in 4 or 5.
Okay.
Sorry, there's only 4 choices available.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we can't give you all 7 options or what?
Can't do it.
All right, let's get to some news from yesterday. Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren have been unanimously selected to the 2023-24 All-Rookie First Team. Both players received first-team votes on all 99 ballots from a global panel of sports writers and broadcasters. Why is Chet in that OKC jersey? No one knows in this graphic. Joining Wemby and Chet, a.k.a. Wet and Chemby, on the All-Rookie First Team are Hornets wing Brandon Miller, Heat forward Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Warriors guard Brandon Podziemski. The NBA All-Rookie Second Team, Mavericks center Derek Lively II, Rockets guard/forward Amen Thompson, Jazz guard Keontae George, OKC guard Cason Wallace, also in a Summer League jersey, and Grizzlies forward Gigi Jackson II. Jackson, the only member of either All-Rookie team not drafted in the first round. He went 45th overall. Any issues with these selections here on the All-Rookie teams? Any snubs? What do you think?
Well, I think it's weird that there's only 99 votes once again. There was 99 votes for the Rookie of the Year award. One voter didn't turn in their awards. I'll also say it's weird that Brandon Miller wasn't a unanimous first teamer. He only got 98 votes total.
Yeah.
So somebody left him off the 1 and 2 teams. Does not make sense to me.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense at all. I think it's interesting to see Brandon Podziemski as the 5th slot on the first team ahead of Derek Lively. Derek Lively's also obviously had an awesome postseason. Pods was probably better in the regular season. I feel like we all came down on choosing him as our 5th guy because it was between those two for the end of the first team. I think the biggest snub is probably Trace Jackson Davis, but I like Gigi Jackson getting a little love as well. He had a really good season for the Grizzlies, so I ain't too upset about it.
Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis nearly made that All-Rookie Second Team. He earned 1 point less than Gigi Jackson.
Yep.
Jackson, maybe there was a mistake in terms of Jackson or Jackson Davis when people were doing the voting. Who knows? Oof. But Jackson, the Grizzlies forward, made 4 fewer ballots but received 5 first-team votes, while TJD was on the second team on all 42 ballots he appeared. And that's why Gigi Jackson just got in there.
Gigi Jackson, 19-year-old who was basically elevated almost midway through the season. He's only played in 48 games this season, but he was elevated when they had all those injuries with John Morant and Marcus Smart. Everybody was injured, so he comes in and fills in. I think if there's anyone that you can ridicule for making a bad vote and ridicule him for a specific award, it's probably this one, because every other award they seem to get it right, but in this one, you can poke some holes in their second team. I think the first team is absolutely correct, but there's guys that should get some nods. Trace Jackson-Davis, sure. Asar Thompson, I know he had a bad ending to the year, but he was really good to start the year, and he played a ton of games, and he did get injured, so he's not even sniffing the second team here, which is odd. I mean, he was good. I know the Pistons stunk, but anyway. It's nice to get all these rookies just mentioned again. One more time. Just mention them.
Of the top 14 picks, so the lottery in the 23 draft, only 5 got all rookie honors. The Wemby, Miller, Amen Thompson, Wallace, who did play all 82 games, and then Lively. So, some notable names that didn't make it. Scoot Henderson, not being on one of these squads is rough. He shot 38% from the field on a very bad team. He averaged 14, 5, and 3. He found it for weeks at times, but really overall shot poorly. And then a bunch of other names like Koulibaly. People were upset, maybe didn't sniff an all-rookie second team. A bunch of other guys didn't play as much, like Walker and Hendricks and stuff like that. But, the Asar Thompson, the TJD, and probably, the Scoot and maybe Bilal Koulibaly. I can't get too upset about all rookie second teams, I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. All right.
For me, it's more like I would be disappointed if I'm a Portland fan. To see the guy that you tanked basically 2 seasons for. You got a number 3 pick in Scoot, and he didn't even make the second team. The guy's just got to become the biggest De'Aaron Fox fan in the world. He didn't even make an all-rookie team either. Look at him now. He's an all-star.
Yep. All right, before we go, tweet of the night.
Tweet of the night. Wow. Twitter.
Oh, tweet of the night. It's brought to you by Anthony Edwards, basically. He's doing a whole bunch of Minnesota tourism.
Yeah.
Increasingness. So our first tweet from Tweet of the Night comes to us from Steve Russian, who mentions bringyass.com takes you to the Minnesota tourism website, the Star of the North. ExploreMinnesota.com. Apparently, comedian and Wolves fan John Savitt purchased bringyass.com and then redirected it to Explore Minnesota's website. And I saw even Explore Minnesota has been telling people to bring their ass to Minnesota. It's gotten all over the place. DDF Baker did up their Welcome to Minnesota sign with a little bring your ass down at the bottom. And then our friends over at Breaking Tea, they dropped a new Minnesota-themed bring your ass tea that you can get by going over to breakingtea.com. You guys ever been to Minnesota? Ever been to Minneapolis?
Not yet.
No, I have not. I would like to go. You assume
I did.
We're in the
I went for a wedding once upon a time. Within 5 minutes of landing, walking through the airport, I saw Michael Beasley.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a wolf.
At the time?
At one point in time, I think we went to the Minnesota State Fair. They've got like a legendary state fair.
Really?
It was awesome.
What, just like in sheer size of it? Or?
Yeah, and the treats they will offer you. I remember the best thing we had was bucket of cookies.
Okay.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Just a straight up, 10 inches by diameter-wise 10 inches. It was a circle. Mm-hmm. You're just walking around with a whole pail of cookies for the whole day. Okay. That's great. It'll last you until you get to the deep-fried tent where you can get a deep-fried anything. We had deep-fried Oreos.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're thinking. Chocolate chip cookies into Oreos? Yeah. I did it. I'm crazy. That's what it's like in Minnesota. I don't know what other stuff they got going on. I think we set foot in the Mall of America for a second. They've got like an amusement park there.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah.
It looks like it's in Bloomington. I don't know how close that is to Minneapolis, but I'm sure it's pretty close. Okay. You'd like to go? Well, obviously you should go. They should fly you there with all this branding you got going on right here.
I'd love to go to Little Canada for sure. Yes. I've heard some great Minnesota accents. Not from Minnesota, but people who journey out down here to the south. It feels like I'm talking to a Canadian at times. So yeah, I'd love to go. It seems beautiful.
My favorite part about the whole bring your ass comment from Anthony Edwards to Charles Barkley, who said he'd basically never been to Minneapolis, was people then pointing out, hold on, Chuck, weren't you just there for the Final Four like 5 years ago? In 2019, I believe, the Final Four was in Minneapolis, and I think he was covering it with, TBS and all that. Auburn, his team was like in the Final Four, so I guess he just forgot he was there.
I see a photo of him here.
Yeah,
April 6th, 2019. Bank Stadium, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Pretty sure that's Chuck in Minnesota.
Yeah. He just
less than 20 years.
He just forgets he was there.
Thanks, Jess Myers.
And you brought up that fantastic Bring Ya Ass shirt that's available at Breaking Tea. We also, because the people wanted it, they wanted some No Dunks Wolves and Mavericks gear. Because we've got a lot of our No Dunks logos sort of remixes for a bunch of the other teams. We have the Pacers. We already have the Celtics. We now have a Wolves shirt and a Mavericks shirt, No Dunks. That's going to be going up basically right this second. I'm getting emails from Jamie Mottram saying, feel free to tease on air. It's coming right up, he says. By the time you're listening to this, maybe even watching it later on YouTube, go to breakingtea.com and search for those. You can go to nodunks.com. It'll take you right to our page there on breakingtea.com. So, Breaking Tea, man, they move fast. Look at the people wanted it, and we got it. They're nice looking shirts, too. I like both of these.
Not bad.
I know. All right, we'll call it there. Conference finals previews. Again, let's hear from everybody out there. I want to see your picks in the comments below, your reasoning, what you're watching for, your X factors, obviously, who's winning it and how many games. And also, please, somebody tell me your dream finals matchup. Let me know in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals and all the NBA news. I think we have all defensive teams being named later this afternoon. We'll talk a little defense. That's tomorrow. Until then, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, I know people out there don't like the banging of tables during our podcasts, but it has been reduced. It has been reduced greatly this season. I would say somebody do the stats. How many bangs there have been month to month to month.
We've gotten
it's
better.
reduced.
We definitely got better.
Yeah, it's reduced.
Brace the day, people.